Hey, we're live. Hey, welcome to another live stream. And my name's Jeff Gilpin, and I'm coming to you from sunny and, well, snowy Truckee today. And I'm here with some new friends of mine, Daryl and Bethanie Thompson, and they live in Washington, Utah, which is kind of near St. George, Utah. It's kind of a suburb or right the same. And a couple of weeks ago, I went down to see their club. They started this past year, and I went down to see their club. And it's just totally obvious to me that God is working in their club and in their church. And so I was very encouraged being there, and there was just a ton of excitement and a lot of kids. And so I just asked them if they would come and kind of share the story. And it was encouraging to me. I hope it's encouraging to y'all. And so, first of all, hello, and got your tea and sitting at home. And
Yes.
hey, so Daryl and Bethanie Daryl's the children's pastor at Southland Bible Church in Washington. So, tell me about the church. I mean, and it's been there quite a while, and just kind of who's there, and tell me about the church.
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty unique deal. It's an independent Bible church that came out under a mission agency known as Tent Makers Bible Mission. And the design there is to send out church planners that are working some kind of other tent making income, if you will, while they're starting a church and everything like that. But the interesting thing with this church that's pretty neat, honestly, is that the planning pastor who planted the church in the 80s, I can't remember exactly what year, but is still the senior pastor today. So he's been there over 30 years. And it's just, I don't know, you kind of just see God's steady faithfulness too with the church and its growth over the years and different things. As the church has grown, really the majority of the church has grown with him as well. And more recently, it's just kind of become a little bit more evident that it's a older church generally, older generationally, and so recently they've in the last 5 years they hired a new youth pastor, primarily because the other youth pastor left and took a pastorate, but and he's a little bit younger. And then just a couple, like 3 years ago almost now, they asked me to come on staff as the children's director,
Full-time.
as a full-time position. It was like a part-time position for a number of years, but they saw the need for we want to prioritize this more, and so they were able to take us on as full-time staff. And so,
Which is kind of funny because there was like a dozen kids.
yeah,
Like, it's not like we had this
Yeah.
massive thing,
yeah,
but they knew that it was going to take some effort and energy to bring in more families
Sure.
and stuff. And not that they expected us, alone to do that,
Sure.
but it was cool. They kind of took a step of faith in hiring some kids.
yeah,
full-time.
for sure.
So, kind of like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think? I mean, from what you're saying and from what I gathered when I was there, and I could say this because I'm aging, but it's an aging church, and they realized, pastor, your elders, whoever realized that they need to, start raising the next generation. Otherwise, the church,
Yeah.
maybe not now, but in 10 or 15 years.
Mhm.
And I see that sometimes where the church just kind of dies one member at a time. They recognize that and go, "Hey, we need to do something for that," which is very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that the pastor Tim
Yes.
saw that, hey, we got to do something. So it was cool. So tell me about Awana and why you guys. I mean, what was the thinking process? I mean, I just kind of got the tail end of that. You registered
Yeah.
but tell me the what was the thinking about Awana?
Well, we had been here a couple years, like I said, and we had like a midweek children's thing, just kind of like our own little kids club with the 10 to 15 kids that we had, just with families in the church and different things like that. And it was really fun. But as I was evaluating it and different things, there's a lot of things, even just looking in the scope of the church as a whole. We wanted to see an opportunity for more members of the congregation to get involved and have an opportunity to serve in a different way.
Can I ask you, just hold on just a second. So your Bible club, your midweek Bible club, pre-Awana, was just you and Bethany doing everything?
Not doing Bethany.
Oh,
No,
just you doing everything?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd have one person, and that rotated throughout the year as like a helper, just so like someone else was there. But yeah, it was mainly I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it was, a couple of years of really good like learning and evaluating like what I felt like this aspect is profitable. I like something that's happening here. This is less, or even it's a good thing, but the time that goes into it takes so much time. I feel like there's a better way to delegate things or disperse things so that we can maximize what I'm doing, I guess.
So almost, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
You wanted to build something bigger than yourself, maybe. So it's not all relying on you. I mean, would that be fair?
That was a lot of it. I didn't want it kind of like you said, even seeing maybe past situations at different churches and different things. I had seen where certain ministries were like very, very reliant on an individual. And then that individual moves on or leaves, God calls them elsewhere, somewhere else. And then it's just kind of like, what do we do now? And I almost kind of as I've approached different things as children's ministry, I kind of want to work myself out of a job.
Yeah.
I want to be able to maybe implement some things, and so delegate it and disperse the responsibility everywhere so that it's just like a self-sustaining thing where a lot of people are involved. A lot of people, everyone's dependent obviously on the Lord for the growth ultimately, but I don't want it to be so like rooted in me being present. That it just falls apart if we were to move elsewhere or change things or whatever. So,
one thing I noticed, you have a great team there. And it wasn't reliant on you. I could see that.
Yeah.
And there was a group of people that I mean were working together, and that I always tell people, hey, if you're the only one doing it, then if you're the only one who can do it, you will be the only one do it, and the ministry can only get so big.
Yeah.
But if you empower other people, that's really the magic to ministry, is to empower other people. I still serve at our club, but I'm only there 7 or 8 weeks a year because there's such a great group of people. So part of our role as leadership is not to do the ministry, but to equip other people to do ministry.
For sure.
And then it can go beyond us. So yeah, very cool. So now you guys meet Thursdays.
Yes.
And there's a couple clubs that meet Thursdays, but as you're thinking about that, we talked about it. Just share. Why did you guys pick Thursdays?
There's a few reasons. A big one was Wednesday night is when we do our midweek service, like a adult Bible study as well as the youth group. And we didn't want people to have to choose one or the other with whether they could volunteer. So we decided to do it not on Wednesday night because then it would hopefully bring in more people to be available. But also we wanted the churches in the area to get to be involved in Awana. And we didn't want it to be like this competition of, okay, go choose your church's Wednesday night thing. Because around here, most churches have like a Wednesday night study of some sort. So that was part of it. But we live in a predominantly LDS area. And so we kind of asked around, and we're trying to figure out when they do their different midweek things because we didn't want to exclude them from coming. And so it seemed like from what we could gather that Thursday was relatively open for the LDS church. And we have seen a decent amount of LDS kids joining, which has been really encouraging for all of us at the church.
Yeah.
So there's families from other churches that come to your club. Yeah.
It is like I'd say like from Southland, at least on the kid side of things, maybe 25, not even, something like that. 20, 25 kids are ours. And then we kind of bottomed out this, right now around 70-ish. And so the majority is from outside of our local congregation for sure.
Yeah. So what about, we didn't talk about this before, but casting vision to the church, to the community. Did you guys do anything like,
Well, what was cool is the first thing we ever really did that was like when he jumped on at Southland was a big VBS.
Mm.
And the years prior, it had been, again, like our Southland kids, maybe 20, 30 kids. And so that's kind of what we anticipated. But all we did was threw it out on Facebook on some moms groups. Like, hey, we've got this free kids event for a week. Feel free to sign up. And we had 120 kids show up. And we were
Wow.
like, holy cow. So we were desperately like, church, we need help. We need help. And I think that's the first time everyone at church kind of realized, like, oh, okay, the community's interested. They didn't know before that we did anything. So we really haven't done a ton of advertising beyond just kind of throwing it out on Facebook here and there.
So what kind of moms groups? I mean, I never heard anything like that. I've heard Awana being advertised on Facebook, but
Yeah,
like
I'm
like moms groups or something like that, or
I'm just in a local moms group. It's not a religious group. It's just
Oh.
kind of I don't know,
Yeah.
almost.
The moms go to talk about how annoyed they are with their kids at a particular moment.
Yeah.
Oh, one of those. Oh, one of those. Okay.
I definitely see it
something
from
like
a
that.
distance.
Kind of similar to like a yard sale site, except we don't sell stuff.
It's a
just
support. It's a support group.
like you can
Yeah.
call it a little more, yeah. But I have
Yeah,
been
so-
blown away at the response for that. So when
Yeah.
we decided to do Awana, we were a little nervous about like we did not advertise at all. We just kind of told people. I posted it on our personal Facebook accounts, and I think I posted it on a homeschool group and on a mom's group, and that was it. And we had on registration night, we thought we were planning big for like 50, 60 kids.
It's like 30, 40 was I was
I know.
hoping for
I thought
in
we were
my
going to
head.
get maybe 50 or 60, and he was more like in the maybe 30. But so that we had already ordered all of our supplies because Awana was going to start, and we did registration night the week before. And we ordered what we thought was plenty, and then we had 100 and something kids walk in those doors, and they just kept
Wow.
and coming and coming. And so our like a secretary for Awana had to do, I think, like 5 rush orders that week to have all of our books and all the stuff we would need ready to go.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of cool. We didn't really advertise beyond just kind of very basically getting the word out there.
Yeah.
And
That must have been very affirming to
Yeah.
your like, okay, we're doing the right thing. This is what God wants us to do.
Yeah.
Affirming and slightly horrifying, to be completely honest. But yeah, like it really was. And I think for sure for the people that signed up to volunteer, because they were we have such a good group, and they were probably just not sure really what to expect, like realistically, all of us. And so when they saw the rivers of Babylon essentially pour through the doors, they're just like, oh man, like this is, and then there's like, and because most of our volunteers had never really been involved with Awana before, and so they're like, okay, so I really need to understand what's going on here.
What is it we're doing?
Yeah.
So your vision casting was, hey, they're coming. They're coming.
Yeah, like in between, and we had a good chunk of them prior to. We did scoop up a handful more. Volunteers.
Yeah.
Because after registration night, it was definitely like hey,
calling on the troops kind of thing. Yeah.
But
I felt that the church, the pastor, I talked to the pastor's wife, the church supports you guys.
Yeah.
They're totally behind what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So now what about the church is aging? Who are your volunteers, and how did who are they, or what's?
It's an eclectic. It really is. There are people and I've been at the church, like I said, 3 years, and this is probably to my fault, but there's a handful of people that I've never even spoken with before, and like literally out of the woodworks kind of things. We have a handful of people. Let me think here. Maybe 4-ish people, volunteers that had been involved in Awana at some capacity before, or their kids were in Awana. And they loved it and were super excited it was happening. And one of them, like one of the moms who had her daughter in Awana years ago, was just like, this is my opportunity to like give back, because that program did so much for my kids. So she was super excited to jump on board as a small group leader.
And just to add, one thing we forgot was when we first announced that we were planning on doing Awana, he did do I think we called it a first contact kind of thing. And he showed a few videos about what Awana is, and we invited parents and volunteers who were interested.
Oh yeah.
No one had like signed up yet. It was just
So it's like after church on a Sunday or something like that, or
yeah.
Good call.
Type of a thing, just because again, it strangely enough, as common knowledge as Awana is in other parts of the country, and like where I grew up, it was synonymous with, you know, Bible teaching churches and different things like that. Midwest, big thing. Like it is not a super prominent thing in Utah, and so it was kind of news to a lot of people, and so
you know, it's cool about that. I mean, one thing you have to remember, out in the West, we're missionaries. You know, and maybe more now than ever. I know pastors that get sent from the South out to Vegas to plant churches. They're missionary pastors supported by churches in Georgia and Alabama. And so, very cool. So some older people. And what'd you do? I know we did a little online training, but certainly there was more that you had to do. I mean, I just kind of provided an orientation. What did you guys do to train the volunteers?
It's funny. A lot of the training stuff happened kind of 3 or so weeks in, because I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to address this. We did not. So it's totally like a hodgepodge thing for sure. But we, the volunteers, like I said, super eclectic group. A lot of people that hadn't heard of it before. And honestly, like almost took some coaxing a little bit, because they're like, I don't want to be in charge. Because I kind of honestly pitched it as like where we need the bulk and where the rubber meets the road as far as like the number of volunteers we need is small group leaders. And it's like just taking basically 30 minutes to sit down with a handful of kids. You'll see the same kids week after week, help them learn some verses and talk to them about what they mean. Get to know them, you know, get involved in their lives a little bit. And they're like, okay, I can't do that by myself. And so we're like, all right. So we started like pairing up leaders and would have multiple leaders at the same table to help ease kind of the intimidation factor for that side of things.
Well, and we were so unfamiliar with Awana. I've never done it before. He did it like 1 year.
I was a Sparky 1 year.
Yeah.
Hang glider forever.
So like we didn't even really know. Like you had to explain even just some of the basics, like what does a night look like? Because I had heard that you play games, and I'd heard that they memorize verses, but I didn't know what that looked like at all. So we ordered the curriculums, and we ourselves were just trying to like flip through it, like, hey, what is this exactly? So trying to explain that to we're trying to figure it out, and then we're trying to explain it to these people. It was not perfect for sure. And I know we ended up getting each small group leader one of the small group leader books, which I think that helped a lot for them to be like, oh, okay. And even for us, like, oh, okay, this makes a little more sense. And then we found a couple videos that were really helpful. And Daryl actually, some of the older people were struggling figuring out how to keep track of all the details of Awana. So Daryl made a video of himself acting out like a small group table and marking all the things. So I think we did the best we could given the situation.
You know, I think is, you know, when I drove away that night, you know, I think what struck me is how the old people, you know, I don't want to say old, but aging people, they just want to come and have fun and love the kids.
Oh, totally.
They've sort of made their bones. They just want to come. So having you guys young, a little more creative. Hey, just tell us where you want us to go, and we just want to
Yeah.
go and have fun with the kids. I want to play games with them, kick some
Yes.
balloons around with them. I don't
Yeah.
want to be in charge. When you said I don't want to be in charge, I thought that was cool that you guys just kind of lead it, and then they just want to come and have fun. And so now so your attendance, climbing, who are these kids? I mean, you got kids from your church.
We don't know. We don't know where they're coming.
There's a handful that we're like, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but
We're glad
cool.
you're here. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely, like I'd say maybe 10%ish, 10 to 15% unchurched, just out the gate.
So you're saying 10 to 15% of your kids are unchurched.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other ones are your church. Now, do you consider LDS unchurched or?
I mean, technically yes. But that's it's weird because they're like, you see behavior differences a little bit. Like unchurched is like no church involvement at all. And while
knowledge of the Bible or God or anything.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool.
The LDS kids have some of the phrasing, but the gospel isn't there, and the truth isn't there consistently, or at least you can find it. I don't know.
Yeah. About maybe a dozen LDS kids.
Yeah.
And so they actually requested the King James version.
Right. Because and so we always have those on hand, just so that they can, follow along and be a part of it in that way. But yeah.
Talk about those kids coming from Colorado City.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a few. I don't know if we even know all of them, but every now and then, like a mom will show up in full polygamous, because you can tell who they are visually. And that's when it's like, oh, we didn't realize like we had some FLDS kids here, or so I don't really know how they all found out about it, but
they're coming.
They're coming, and we're happy to have them. The majority of our group, which we're totally cool with, is from other Bible churches in the area. Like we have large churches. There's also lots of little tiny churches that don't have children's ministries who come and use this, which we're thrilled with. Like, hey, we've got the facility, we've got the volunteers, we have financially, we're okay. Like our church can handle, paying for whatever it is. But so it's just been kind of cool. It feels like it's been a ministry to the community, but also to some of the struggling churches and church plants in the area, which I've loved. I think that's just sweet to see.
Yeah, so you can serve other churches. You can serve those other pastors and churches and stuff like that. Hey, so when I went in there, I met you, Bethany, and then you introduced me to the pastor's wife. I don't remember her name. And Joy. And she told me, she says, hey, thank you. This is one of the best things that's happened to our church. And so how has the Awana affected the rest of the ministries of the church? And just, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it has really ignited a spark of excitement, I think, in a lot of the leaders and people that have been involved with Awana that weren't necessarily directly involved before, just an excitement. And given, honestly, especially recently, the like nosedive the culture is taking, and just be like, okay, this like legitimately is war. Like we need to invest in these kids like this is, and the thought of what these guys are going to be going through beyond, our time and stuff is just mind blowing. And so I think in seeing that, it was a long time standing of the kids ministry thing happened over here, and youth ministry stuff happened over here. Seniors and stuff had their own thing over here. And this was a really cool conglomerate of all the above. Like we've got youth kids helping. We've got the older generation and middle-aged and young families helping, and all pouring into these kids. And so it's just like, we are we are investing the God's truth into these kids. And it created this spark of like, okay, it's not just this routine and this structure and this our social club type of a thing that we do, and this happens this week. It really, I just think, rejuvenated a lot of people. and seeing like there truly is a need. Like I think it's very easy, and myself included, to get into the routine of church function, if you will, and being reminded that the fields are white, ready for harvest, sometimes is just what is needed for all of us to be like, okay, like there's work to be done.
You know, I always talk about to people, hey, the children that are in your club, we're building the church of 2050, right? And the kids that are in your club are going to be pastors and missionaries and deacons and elders and moms and Christian businessmen and so on. So what we do today is we're really shooting an arrow off, 30 years into the future. I mean, the ministry that we're doing now, and even, you think about some of the Cubby kids, they're going to live into the 22nd century.
It's crazy.
Right? I mean, you think about that.
Yeah.
They're going to be living into the whatever. I guess it's the 22nd century. Is that right? The 22nd century?
I can never keep track of centuries because it's off.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. So, so do you think this caused the church to look out into the community maybe more, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
And and just even to like because what I've wanted to do with again, the same idea, not just doing church functions for the sake of doing church functions, like some of our bigger events and things like that, like our VBS that she mentioned, we do like a harvest party, trunk or treat type of thing.
Which that exploded this year. Holy cow.
That was crazy too.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But wanting to use those as funnels into
they kind of build off each other.
Yes, exactly. And like at each of those things, like with our harvest party, we promoted Awana and got to see a couple trickle in from that. At Awana, we're going to be doing our camp night, which is going to be promoting our youth camp that we have up on Cedar Mountain that we do during the summer. And we'll be promoting our VBS, which happens like a month after Awana is over as well. And then camp is just a cool opportunity to, again, like just get involved in your guys' local churches and like be a part of different things. And so hopefully creating this cycle of the church, not as like, again, a social function, but as, hey, it's a community, it's a gathering, it's a lot of people, and we need each other and we need to grow together. So
very cool. So Bethanie, when we were talking before this, you told me this was going to be about what did we do wrong. And so what have you learned? I mean, what next year, what are you going to do different?
I think next year we'll need to train up people a little better. Although now that we're not starting from square one, it doesn't feel quite as like overwhelming. But I don't know. I kind of feel like we'll do a lot of things differently, just simply because we've now done it and we know what to expect. Hey,
yes.
We're trying to talk.
Hey, I want to share something somebody just posted on the YouTube. I stream this out on YouTube. Wish we had young people like this to step up in our club, serve in our club. So,
it's been, I will say though, the majority of our group is older, like elderly. It's kind of the one thing that's been hard with Thursday nights is a lot of them don't want to drive. Ow, bud, honey. Kate, you need to go see Sissy. Sorry. We're not bribing trains, so we're doing well.
Yeah.
Follow Sissy. But that's very sweet. And makes me sad that there aren't more young people stepping up. I know at least around here, it felt like a lot of us, and maybe now is the time to kind of hit it differently at your church. A lot of us in the younger generation who have younger kids are really feeling the turmoil of the world around us. Like even not in the church, like just people, our generation who have these sweet kiddos who have no idea what's going on in the world. It's scary. It's really scary raising kids right now and to feel like, how do we protect them? What do we do? Like, I don't know what the world's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years. I have no idea. I didn't think it'd look like this. And so we have had a lot of people, like parents in our age group, step up even to like more responsibility roles. And I don't think it's because of us. I think it's because they are feeling like, I want my kids involved in this. And if that's going to happen, I have to
Yeah.
step do it. And so it's been really sweet to see people serve who haven't served before. And truly, I think it's the climate of this world that's kind of pushing our generation to get involved, you know?
I think having said that though, too, the cool thing is too, having older people who see, hey, I could just cash it in and go play golf, but they still want to come and they see the value in raising the next generation. You know, years ago, I was doing some training on the Navajo reservation, and when this Navajo pastor said to me, he said, hey, the Navajo church will become great when old men plant trees whose shade they'll never sit under. So for older people, myself included, a lot of the fruit of the ministry going on today, I'll never see.
Yeah.
Right. But if we as older people don't plant those seeds, then there won't be a harvest. And so I think we all need each other. We all need, and it's cool that I mean, you've got a lot of those people in your church who maybe go, hey, I could stay home and watch TV on Thursday nights or play golf or whatever, but they are devoting their hour and a half, 2 hours every Thursday to something that they'll never benefit from, they'll never see the fruit of, but because God's called them to do that. And so I'm sure. So that's the response.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
have two things with that I just want to add is we do still have a large group of older people who do not participate in any children's ministry. But one thing I have really learned to appreciate is that they serve in their own ways. Like the first week of Cubbies, we realized the room we use wasn't working. We needed a bathroom. Like all of Cubbies was just,
yes,
let's go potty. And I told that to someone, and literally the next morning, a group of men showed up at the church and they knocked down walls. And within a couple weeks, we had a small bathroom done in there. And those men don't help with Awana on Thursday nights, but they participate when they can. And then we have people who donate things, and we have people who support it financially, or they babysit someone's kids so that they can go come volunteer.
yes, very cool.
So it's just I have to remember that there are still a lot of people at home, but they have their reasons and they can.
And they all serve in the way they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too. Sometimes the older people, they have a ministry. I've seen churches, they have a ministry of the children, but they also have a ministry of the parents, because you have young parents who've never done this before. And some of the older people go, well, yeah, they can kind of coach them along or encourage them a little bit here and there. And so, yeah. So very cool. I'm super stoked with what's going on there. And it's totally obvious that God's working, and just thank you for taking a couple minutes. And looks like you got to put some kids to bed
Oh man.
Yeah.
I did want to just with the person's comment, if people are looking for younger people to come serve, we have a really sweet connection with a Bible college called Frontier School of the Bible. There are lots of kids, I say kids, but I mean early 20s who are wanting to jump into ministry, and whether that is full-time or whether that's
like an internship.
We have a really great connection there. So if people are ever looking for something like that, they could contact Frontier and just kind of throw it out. Who knows, what would come from that. That's where we met.
Yeah. Where is that? You've told me about that, but where is is that in Colorado or Wyoming or something?
It's in Wyoming. It's like 6 miles west of the border of Nebraska, like southeastern Wyoming. It's in a town called LaGrange. It's like North Cheyenne, like an hour, but it's like a 200-person ranch town type of thing. And so it's like the college and a cafe, a gas pump, and a bar.
Well, how about that?
Yeah. So, But yeah, little podunk college, but there's kids, people have graduated from there, are all over the world now serving as missionaries, pastors, you name it. Like,
Yeah, very cool. Hey, anything else? Thank you.
oh
Anything else
yeah.
you'd like to say?
Um,
Well, we've talked a bunch.
yeah.
We are grateful. Thank you for coming to our
Yeah.
our luau night. That was fun.
That's right. Luau night. Yeah, that was kind of fun. You had the girls dancing, and
I know.
I had no
was
idea.
that lady was she a TNT leader, or was she just there for the luau? So she served
She's a
by just
mom. So
she's a
yeah,
mom.
she was a mom. Here's another random tidbit with it, just to throw out too. Like with even just with Awana, and again, it's just evidence that the word of God does not return void. It accomplishes what it's going to accomplish. But things that have stemmed from indirectly from Awana have been so surprising. Not every week, but relatively consistently. There's a group of moms that meet in my office during Awana time, and they
Really?
do Bible study together. And
we didn't plan that.
I didn't even
It
know it
just-
was like
yeah.
going on. They just said it's getting cold outside. Could we meet inside? I'm like, yeah, you can use my office. And so that's been going on. Another thing that came up was one of the LDS kids that was there. We heard that they do during their version of Sunday school or something like that. They have to share something at different times, and this girl in particular didn't know what to share, so she just quoted a whole bunch of her verses from Awana, just boom, in the LDS church, quoting gospel focused verses. And anyways, I mentioned that because that mom that I'm referencing was actually one of the moms that instigated the Bible study that's going on. But you just never know how God is going to use Awana beyond anything you would even think or even directly involved in. It's his work for sure. And so it's been cool.
You know, I've seen some churches that they have a prayer team. So some of the seniors will say, hey, they'll commit to pray from 6 o'clock to 7:30 every Thursday night. And they don't want to drive at night and that kind of thing, you know, and yeah, that's legit. So, hey, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll see y'all again soon. So, thanks again. And we'll see y'all down the road. Bye-bye.
Good. Thank you, Jeff.
See ya.